Bam! Ymir slammed his fist on the bar, rattling the empty shot glasses. Those crazy fucking humans. Without them, every Ocampa would be a blackened skeleton on a shattered rock. Hard to believe it's been 20 years, Leon said. 20 years since that 10-kilometer hailstone nearly wiped our asses out. The two Ocampa sat hunched in a dim, smoky dive bar on the outskirts of the capital city. Ymir, a grizzled ex-soldier with a laser burn scar across his cheek, had been in the thick of the chaos. Leon was a bit younger, but old enough to remember the apocalyptic panic that had seized their world. It started when deep space observatories picked up the massive asteroid on a direct collision course. Ymir recalled the day the news broke. He had just gotten off patrol when the sirens started wailing. Alert, planetary impact imminent, all military report to posts. This is not a drill. The word still rang in Ymir's ears. He sprinted to the base and watched the general's ashen face on the briefing room view screen. An asteroid 10 kilometers wide will strike our world in 30 days. We don't have a fraction of the firepower needed to destroy it. Ymir had never seen the hard-ass general so rattled. The room erupted in shouts. What about the Galactic Council? They have planet crackers. The general shook his head grimly. They're refusing to help, citing their non-interference directive bullshit. The fear in that briefing room turned into a planet-wide hysteria. Rioting and looting broke out as the Ocampa realized they had no way to stop their impending extinction. The government was in full meltdown mode. Then a miracle. A single human ship, the TSS Deliverance, arrived in orbit and hailed the High Council. Leon shuddered, his grip tightening on the shot glass as Ymir recounted the story. He'd been a fresh-faced recruit at the time, just starting his career in the Defense Force. When the sirens had screamed their apocalyptic warning, he'd felt a cold, sickening dread settle in his stomach. But then the humans came. Their ship, the TSS Deliverance, had blasted into orbit like a divine chariot. Captain Robertson had strode into the High Council chambers, his chief engineer Ivanov at his side. The burly, bearded man had laid out a desperate plan. Use the Deliverance's advanced tractor beam, combined with precisely placed nukes, to shove the asteroid off course. The Council had jumped on it. What choice did they have? In the days that followed, Ivanov and Robertson worked around the clock with Ocampa scientists, jury-rigging human tech to interface with their own. Leon remembered watching the hulking engineer hunched over a console, his face bathed in flickering light as his fingers danced across the keys. When the fleet launched, Leon was on the bridge of an Ocampa cruiser. The mood was beyond tense. They were gambling with the fate of their entire world. As they neared the asteroid, his stomach lurched at the sheer size of it. It wasn't one solid mass, but a chaotic cluster of rocks and debris. One wrong move and they'd break the whole thing into a planet-killing shotgun blast. But Ivanov had this. The man was in his element, carefully marking the charge points with the cool focus of a veteran miner. Meanwhile, the Deliverance strained against the asteroid's immense gravity well, the tractor beam the only thing keeping the rock steady. The countdown hit 0. The charges blew in a blinding flash that seared Lyron's retinas. The shockwave slammed into the ship, alarms screeching. For a moment, he thought they'd failed, that the rock was coming apart. But when the static cleared from the view screen, a cheer went up. The asteroid tumbled away at a new angle, missing Ocampa by a cosmic hair's breadth. They'd done it. Those crazy humans had done it. Leon listened in awe as Ymir recounted the humans' return. The Ocampa fleet was welcomed back with a hero's celebration, the likes of which their world had never seen. Fireworks burst overhead, painting the sky in dazzling colors, as crowds thronged the streets, waving flags and banners. In the grand hall of the High Council, Captain Robertson and his crew were the guests of honor, at a lavish banquet. Dignitaries from every corner of Ocampa were there, eager to shake hands with the humans who had saved their civilization from annihilation. As Robertson made his way through the room, graciously accepting thanks and congratulations, a small figure darted out from the crowd. It was a young Ocampa girl, no more than 8 years old, with wide, luminous eyes. In her hands, she held something small and delicate. "Captain Robertson," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I made this for you." She held out a tiny, intricately carved wooden figurine. Robertson knelt down to get a closer look. The craftsmanship was exquisite, especially considering the artist's young age. The figurine depicted an Ocampa figure, arms outstretched as if in benediction. "This is Value, our god of protection," the girl explained solemnly. "I want you to have him to keep you safe like you kept us safe." Robertson felt a lump form in his throat as he accepted the gift. "Thank you," he managed to say. "I will treasure this always." The girl beamed, then darted back into the crowd as quickly as she had appeared. As the celebration continued into the night, Ymir found a moment to pull Robertson aside. The two men stepped out onto a balcony, the cool night air a relief after the stuffy confines of the banquet hall. "I wanted to thank you personally," Ymir said, his voice gruff with emotion, "for everything you and your crew did for us. I have to ask, why did you do it? Why risk your lives for a species you'd never even met?" Robertson was silent for a long moment, gazing out over the twinkling lights of the city. "It was the right thing to do," he said finally. "That's what we humans do. We help those in need, even at great cost to ourselves. It's part of who we are, a legacy passed down from generation to generation." Ymir nodded slowly, absorbing this. "Is there anything we can do to repay you?" he asked. "Anything at all?" Robertson smiled, clapping the Ocampa on the shoulder. "Knowing we made a difference in your lives, that we helped save your world. That's all the reward we need." The next day, as the Deliverance prepared for departure, the High Council made one final gesture of gratitude. In a small private ceremony, they presented Robertson with an official letter of thanks, embossed with the seal of the Ocampa government. And something else, a small unassuming data drive. "This contains the entirety of our knowledge and culture," the High Counselor explained. "Our history, our science, our art, everything. We want you to have it, to share with your people, a token of our eternal gratitude." Robertson accepted the gift with quiet reverence, understanding the magnitude of what he was being offered. "I promise," he said, "to share this with my people, to use it to build bridges of understanding between our worlds." With that, the Deliverance blasted off, the sonic boom of its engines echoing across the skies of Ocampa. On the ground, Ymir watched the ship dwindle to a pinprick, then vanish. The humans were gone, but they had left behind something far more precious than technology or resources. Lion leaned back, shaking his head in wonder. "I still can't believe it," he said, "that the humans would risk everything for a species they'd never even met." Ymir took a long sip of his drink, the amber liquid burning his throat. He set the glass down with a thunk. "Made me realize how small-minded we Ocampa used to be." "What do you mean?" "Well, think about it. Before the humans showed up, when did we ever stick our necks out for anyone else? We were so focused on our own shit, our science, our exploration, but did we ever use any of that to actually help people?" Lion frowned, considering. "I guess not." "Exactly. But those humans, Robertson and his crew, they changed everything, showed us what it really means to be part of a galactic community." Ymir's mind drifted back to the years following the asteroid crisis. It had started small. A few joint research missions here, a humanitarian aid mission there. But soon the Ocampa were diving headfirst into the galactic scene. "Remember when we joined the Galactic Council?" Ymir asked. Lion nodded. "That was a big deal. First time we really had a say in interstellar politics." "And then there was the OEF. The Ocampa Expeditionary Force." Ymir couldn't help but feel a swell of pride at the mention of the organization. He'd been one of the first to sign up, eager to follow in the footsteps of his human heroes. "Never thought I'd see the day when Ocampa soldiers were out there saving lives across the galaxy," Lern mused. "All because of what those humans did for us." A thought suddenly occurred to Lern. He leaned forward, eagerly, Hey, did you ever see Captain Robertson again after the asteroid? A slow smile spread across Ymir's craggy face. As a matter of fact, I did. No shit, when? About 10 years after the crisis. I was on this mission with the OEF, helping evacuate a colony that was about to be wiped out by some kind of super virus. Lyon's eyes widened. Sounds rough. It was. Thousands of colonists from a dozen different species, all crammed into these makeshift quarantine camps. We were racing against the clock to get them all off-world before the virus burned through the whole settlement. Ymir took another swig of his drink, his eyes distant as he lost himself in the memory. So there I am, knee-deep in all this chaos when suddenly this human ship drops out of warp right on top of us, and I'll be damned if it isn't the Deliverance herself, with Robertson in the captain's chair. You're kidding? Hand to gods. There he was, a little greyer around the temples maybe, but still the same old Robertson. We must have saved a few thousand lives that day, working side by side. Lern shook his head, marveling at the strange twists of fate that the universe could throw at you. Did you get a chance to talk to him? Yeah, actually. There was this moment, in between all the insanity, he pulls me aside, reaches into his pocket, and shows me this little wooden figurine. Ymir gestured with his hands, indicating the size of the carving. It was the same one that girl, Tali, had given him back when they saved our planet. He'd kept it with him all those years. Leighton felt a strange tightness in his throat, the idea of this little token, a symbol of the bond between their peoples being carried across the stars for a decade. He said it was a reminder of why he does what he does, why any of us do. Ymir fell silent, his fingers absently tracing the rim of his empty glass. Lern didn't push him. He could feel the weight of the moment hanging in the air between them. Finally, Ymir seemed to shake himself out of his reverie. He straightened up, his eyes focusing back on Lern. As the question hung in the air between them, Ymir's hand tightened around his glass. He stared down into the amber liquid, as if the answer might be found swirling in its depths. Lern waited, his heart heavy with a sense of foreboding. When Ymir finally spoke, his voice was rough with emotion. "They're gone, Lern, the humans, they're just gone." Lern felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean gone? What happened?" Ymir took a long swig of his drink, draining the glass. He slammed it back on the bar, the sound echoing in the sudden silence. "It was the Vakari," he said grimly. "A new species on the edge of human space, technologically advanced, but with a culture that glorified war above all else." Alehan leaned forward, his eyes wide. He had heard whispers of the Vakari, but nothing concrete. "They attacked without warning," Ymir continued, his gaze distant. "Hit the human colonies with weapons unlike anything we'd ever seen. Massive energy beams that could slice through a ship's hull like it was made of paper, swarms of drones that could overwhelm even the most advanced defenses." Lern's stomach turned at the thought of such destruction. But the humans fought back, didn't they? Ymir nodded. Of course they did. Bravely, fiercely, but they were outmatched and outnumbered. The Vakari just kept coming, wave after wave. He paused, his expression haunted. "I saw some of the battle footage. It was brutal. Ships torn apart, colonies reduced to rubble, and at the forefront of it all, the Deliverance. Robertson and his crew, fighting like demons to hold the line." Lern could picture it all too clearly. The sleek human ship darting through the chaos of battle, guns blazing. Robertson in the captain's chair, his face set in grim determination. "They bought time," Ymir said softly. "Time for the evacuation of the core worlds, but in the end—" He trailed off, his eyes squeezing shut as if to block out a painful memory. In the end, it wasn't enough. The Vakari broke through. They laid waste to Earth, the human homeworld. Billions died in the bombardment, and just like that, the human civilization was ash. Lyon felt numb. He had always thought of the humans as invincible, the saviors who had swooped in to rescue his people from certain doom. To think of them being wiped out, their worlds shattered. "What about the survivors?" he asked hoarsely. Emir shrugged. Scattered to the stars, seeking refuge among the other species of the galaxy. There are rumors that Robertson survived, that he's out there somewhere, leading a guerrilla war against the Vakari. But who knows if that's true? A heavy silence fell between them, broken only by the clink of glasses and the low murmur of conversation from the other patrons. Finally, Lion raised his glass. "To the humans," he said, his voice thick. "They saved us. We'll never forget their sacrifice." Emir lifted his own glass, the light glinting off the edge. "To the humans," he echoed, "and to the hope that someday we'll be able to repay the debt we owe them." They drank, the liquor burning their throats. Learn stared into the distance, his mind whirling with the implications of what he had just learned. The humans, the bold explorers who had rewritten the destiny of his species, were gone, snuffed out by a cruel and merciless foe. But their legacy lived on, he realized, in the Ocampa Expeditionary Force, in the bonds of friendship and alliance they had forged across the stars, in the wooden figurine that Captain Robertson carried, a symbol of the unbreakable connection between their peoples. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.